So another one for me that was a really good one and done was Erased, or Boku Dake ga Inai Machi, which basically, I'm pretty sure if you watch anime or like frequent weeb communities, you've probably heard of this. But this one basically deals with like a little, it's like a sci-fi mystery with like a very slight kind of sci-fi. Like sci-fi barely has anything to do with it. But it's basically a guy, he went through his life, lived his life. There was a string of murders in his hometown of little girls, and no one solved it. No one knew what happens. And there was one girl where he saw her literally right before she was murdered the next day, and it always stuck on his mind. And he also ended up being like one of the witnesses. And he basically develops a little bit of trauma, and it throws his life off balance. And he basically is just like a pizza delivery man at 29 years old. Not to say that that's bad. If you're making your money, make your fucking money. But anyways, what happens is he ends up he has this like power where he can see into the future like a few seconds, or it depends. Like the power, it depends on like the strength, depending on the situation, etc., etc. But he can see things, and he's spoken to like one of his coworkers before about it. And what ends up happening is, he ends up using the power to jump back in time to the point where he was in elementary school. And what he does is he tries to solve the murders, or not solve, but he tries to prevent the murders of the little girls in the town, and also find out who the person is. Because I guess I can go ahead and tell you guys that part. What happens is the person who did the murders when he was younger came back into his life when he was older, and that person basically like murders his mom and tries to kill him. So he tries to frame him in the future by killing his mom and having the cops show up. So the only way that he can even fix his life is by jumping back in time and getting this murderer like arrested back when he was like a child. And he does retain everything that he, like all the memories, all of the emotional growth, all the kind of stuff, like everything that who he was as a person at 29 years old, he has when he goes back to when he's like, I think 7 or 9 or so. It's a really good show. It's a really good one and done. You get closure. You get a lot of closure. It gets solved. Just know that they do solve it. And if you really, really like it, the manga actually has a different ending. So that's one of my recommendations.
And I can echo that recommendation. I picked it up, I think, as it aired, and definitely was not disappointed. There's a lot of subject matter that is covered that's hard, I think, because it mostly involves young people, and
yes.
They do a pretty good job. It is effectively a science fiction story, but you spend so long with the characters sort of in fairly normal circumstances that I just think it's treated with a level of respect that it shouldn't bother anyone, when they get to the tougher stuff, because I feel the show and the producers did a really good job of like being sensitive to how serious some of the events that are depicted really are.